Good morning. This is Karen with My I'm Possible Dream. And today's dream is a little bit different than many that we've talked about in the past. And for some of you who listen to today's podcast, you might smile a little bit, you might cry a little bit, and then you may wonder why it feels like a dream. Cancer sucks. And nobody wants to even talk about that C word. But it's a reality. And I have Meg with me today who's going to talk about that sucky word, cancer. But we're not just talking about cancer, we're talking about children who get this terrible disease. And children seem to be more resilient than the rest of us. But she's got a big function coming up, and so I'm going to let her tell your story, and thanks for coming out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So the story really begins in the year 2005. I had two boys, Nathan and Tyler. Tyler was 3.5 years old, and at that time we found out that he had a brain tumor. So it was kind of a whirlwind, and within a few weeks he had had a resection surgery, so they were able to take 80% of his tumor out. However, it was growing from within his brainstem, so it made it impossible to get all of the tumor. We were told at that time that the pathology of his tumor, which is called a ganglioglioma, so it's a mouthful, was a slower growing tumor. So we were told that although doctors couldn't really give us, they were guessing as to what his prognosis would be. But we were told that they thought it would be pretty good because this tumor really is usually controlled with chemo and is not a faster growing tumor. And so we were feeling pretty positive. And Ty went through 52 weeks of chemotherapy.
Wow.
And I know you said kids are resilient, and they are. I mean, he actually loved going to the clinic to get his chemo. We had, he was able to play. He did art with an art therapist. He met kids there that, he kind of connected with, and they would play together during that time. So for a year, that was our life. Every week we went to chemo, and, we had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and things like that. But he smiled through it all. After the surgery, and it took about a couple of months, but then he returned back to his normal self, and we just, we had a new normal, but it was fine. We went on a Make-A-Wish trip in January of 2006 to Disney. We had an awesome time, and then in October of 2007, we welcomed Isabella. She was our newest little one. And it happened to be the same month that Ty stopped his 52-week course of chemo. And so at that point, we were at a wait and see. So we kept our fingers crossed, and we didn't have to go to the clinic every week anymore. We had to go maybe once a month just to get his port flushed. We enjoyed having the new baby, and we all just kind of returned now to a different normal. So although Ty was not in active treatment, you begin to scrutinize every little thing, any little fall or kind of off balance step. It triggers something in your mind. About 6 months, Bella was about 6 months old, we started noticing, I think it was April, that Ty, he was just declining in some ways. He wasn't able to walk as well or as fast. His gait was a little bit more off, and it turned out that his tumor was again growing and changing. So we started a new chemo regimen, and from that point on, nothing ever really stopped the tumor. So I can't even remember now how many different chemotherapy regimens we tried. It might have been 4, it might have been 5, I can't recall. But each one, he would have side effects from it. One of the chemotherapy agents that worked for him really well in the first 52 weeks, he developed a toxicity to, and we couldn't use that one any longer. And eventually we were running out of options. So we decided to try radiation. So we did 6 weeks or 30 days of radiation therapy, which Ty again handled like a champ. He didn't need to be sedated for it. He just listened to his Chipmunks Christmas CD.
Oh my.
Held his little blanket for the treatments and was able, I mean, he did it with flying colors, really. Really no change in the tumor. And a few months after that, we had another MRI. Tumor was still growing, and it was to a point where we could do some palliative chemo. It was like a daily pill, but it wasn't going to stop the tumor from growing. And we decided at that point that quality of life is much more important to us over quantity.
Right.
And so we just stopped treatment and kind of let what was going to happen happen. So, I'm sorry, did you?
That's okay. No, go ahead. Sure.
And so Ty, I think we decided that, I think it was about maybe August of 2008, maybe July. So he was going into the first grade. I was a big believer in keeping life as normal as possible for the kids. And for Ty, I felt that if I said, okay, you're not going to first grade, we're just going to stay at home and kind of love on each other, I felt that that was almost like giving up for him. I didn't want him to feel that we had just given up.
Right.
So we worked it out with their school. He went to an awesome school. The whole system was so supportive. And he went half days. So he had a personal aide that stayed with him every day.
How terrific.
It was so nice. And he was able to go. He began school with the kids in the morning, but he left after lunchtime. And so we did that up until actually, a few days before he passed. So in October 30th, 2008 is when we lost him. He was complaining of his eye hurting the day, it was a Wednesday, it was, I believe, the 29th, and it was snowing. We were supposed to go with him on a school field trip to Seville, and we were, of course, going to go with him. And he was in a lot of pain that day with his eye, so we didn't go. And about lunchtime, my husband had asked him if he wanted to go with him. We had started getting Christmas gifts for, the grandparents
Sure.
and things like that from Ty. And he hadn't gotten mine yet. So my husband asked if he wanted to go with him to get my gift, and he said he didn't. He didn't feel good, but he told my husband exactly what to get. And so my husband left. And a little while later, he just started having difficulty breathing. And I gave him some prescribed medication that's supposed to kind of calm him down. And he went to sleep. And he never woke up. So he slept kind of restlessly through that night. And then the next day, October 30th, we had visitors all day, visitors that came to say goodbye to Ty. And then we did lose him that evening.
Did Ty understand what was going on during all this time?
He did. We were always very honest with the boys. I don't think lying to kids is, they know. They
Right.
know whether you tell them or you hide it from
Right.
them. And so, although we never sat him down and said, well, you're going to die, we did say, there's not really much more medicine that we can take. And we talked about heaven, and we talked about going to heaven. And he knew because I was pregnant that time with my youngest, Sammy, who's 6. And towards the end of his life, Ty liked to take a lot of baths. I think they were soothing for him. And so one evening we were in the bathtub, he and I, and he just said, Mom, I'm really sad. And I said, well, why? And he said, because I know I'm never going to get to meet my baby sister. I'll be in heaven by then. So he knew. He definitely knew.
So, as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple miscarriages.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not the same, but devastating nonetheless. But as a parent, you've got your living, breathing children who you know are going to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
You have this child who is absolutely precious, and you can't do anything for them. How do you live normally?
It's very hard. I think a lot of the time I just had to, I recognized what was going on, but I really don't think that your heart ever accepts that that's what's going to happen. And so although I could talk openly about, that we knew that there was going to be an end to Ty's life, I wasn't ready, because I don't think you're ever ready. And when the time came, it was complete and utter disbelief. So I think your body kind of has its own defenses, and your heart you're in denial even though you don't think you are. There were some things I remember that were very difficult. There was a fundraiser held for Ty, and he couldn't go. He wasn't feeling well. It was a church it was a concert. And I remember we left there that night and we were talking about shopping for Christmas, because it was October and Christmas was coming. And I remember telling my husband, I can't shop for Christmas right now, because I don't know what I would get Ty, and I know he won't be here. But you really can't, it's so hard to wrap your head around that.
Right. I'm sure it is.
And so it was very difficult, though, because you're thinking about this wonderful holiday and how exciting it will be, but deep down that it's
not going to be that exciting for you.
Right.
So tell me some of the special things about Ty, because I see that picture of him, and I'm in love.
Yeah.
And sadly, I will not know Ty as Ty, but I can get to know Ty through you, through your children, and through the fundraising that you're doing. So tell us who he was and the things that he liked.
Oh, he was just so special. He was always so wise for his age, and you can ask anybody that knew Ty, and we all agree that he was an old soul. Yet he was like the definition of childhood to me. He was so loving and so carefree. But yet he had his quirks. Ty used to, when he was very little, line cars, Hot Wheel cars, up all around the house. I mean, there would be a path line of cars. But he played on his own really well. He was able to entertain himself. He showed such compassion for everybody. And the one thing I'll remember about Ty is that he loved holidays. Any holiday. He used to get excited about Groundhog Day. I mean, he just loved them all. And he was always the first to tell you, Merry Christmas or Happy Valentine's Day, like in that morning. He just loved holidays. And he loved birthdays. And any birthday party that we had for his siblings or for his friends, he was like right there front and center. He wanted to sing, and he wanted to watch his friends open up their presents from him. It just you could just tell, it brought him so much joy. And when we had Bella, he doted on her. I mean, Bella was his baby. He loved being a big brother. So he was just, if you think of love and light and sunshine, I mean, that was Ty. He was just an awesome, awesome kid.
So there was a reason for him to be here.
Absolutely. And
there's probably a good reason why he is up in heaven, because he's shining down on all of us.
Absolutely.
And as difficult as it is to lose that little soul, right now I can feel him. And as I've told a lot of people, I've never really thought that I was spiritual until I started doing my podcast and meeting people like yourself. It's not until you touch somebody and you realize that life does continue to go on, and there are dreams, and you can take something from the sadness and turn it into a smile.
Yes.
How did your kids function when all this happened?
That's a good question. And really, it's funny because now looking back, I see things, hindsight is 20/20, and I see things I didn't see before, especially for Nate, who was 2 years older than Ty. So they grew up, playing with each other and, having fun, roughhousing. And when Ty first became ill, Nate was his cheerleader, and he would when Ty came home from the hospital and couldn't walk, Nate was the one kind of holding his hands and helping him to walk. as time went on, and Ty lost a lot of his abilities. He couldn't run and play with the kids anymore, and at the end he couldn't even, use his hands to color. And so I think for Nate, being 8 and 9 years old at the time that this was happening, I think it was very hard for him. I think he felt unsafe and scared, and even maybe a little bit resentful. I know, as
Sure.
time goes on and Ty is losing those abilities, and we also have a baby who's 2 and who is also very demanding at that time because she needs to be. That's, she needs us to do everything for her. I think Nate was feeling a little bit left out, and maybe like his world was a little bit shaky and unstable. And I think he never really truly bounced back from that. I think he's still very guarded. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. And when Ty passed, it was almost like he had to turn it off and block it out. I don't think he processed it right away. And in the year that after we lost Ty, I would see some things, some hint of him processing this. So in the beginning, he wouldn't sleep over anybody's house anymore. Even if we just took a walk around the block, my husband and I, he would call us. It was a 5-minute walk, and we'd be gone 2 minutes, and he'd call us. Are you kidnapped? Did you get kidnapped? So very unsafe.
Sure.
He was feeling very unsafe. And as the year progressed, slowly things got a little better, and slowly he would do things that would tell us that he was kind of processing or grieving Ty. I know the one day he was shoveling the driveway, it was snowy, and he made a ribbon, because the gray ribbon is brain tumor awareness. And he made a ribbon, and he said it was for Ty. And at random times he would just ask questions about Ty, and I remember one day he just said, I miss Ty. And so in his little head he's trying to process this, but he really still doesn't talk about it a lot. It's very rare that he'll say a memory that he has of Ty. And so it's sad. I think that it really did change him and make his world maybe not as safe and innocent of a place that it was for him before.
Well, maybe, with this fundraiser, is he going to get out and run?
Well, my husband and I are trying to talk him into it right now. So he said he'll think about it. But, I said it would be really cool. And I think it would be something that you could feel good about doing in memory of your brother.
Right.
So we're really hoping that in the end he will run it with us.
So tell us about the run.
Okay. So the run, the Fox 8 Foxtrot, which features different charities every year, this year is featuring or supporting the Prayers for Maria Foundation. And that is a foundation that is very close to our hearts. We worked very closely with them in the year after Ty passed away. And I found my inspiration with the founders of that foundation, who lost their own daughter about a year before we lost Ty. They really gave me strength throughout that year. They probably don't even realize how much, because when you can look at somebody who has lost their child and you see them smiling and laughing and living and doing something positive with that loss, it was what I needed to help pull me through. And so the Prayers for Maria Foundation raises money to fund research grants specifically for glioma tumors. The glioma, the brainstem glioma treatment hasn't changed in, I want to say, 30 or 60 years. It's been a very long time. So there's no real new promising drug out there for these kids. And the problem is that nobody really understands this tumor and its behavior and kind of what makes it tick. And so we need this research in order to, understand more about this tumor, so that we can hopefully one day put a stop to it so kids are not dying.
What is the percentage of children who are getting this tumor? Do we know?
Last I looked, I think they said that about 200 kids a year in the U.S. will be diagnosed with this tumor. I find that funny because, and maybe it's because now we've been touched by this.
Right.
But the amount of children locally even that I have known since, we had our diagnosis,
Right.
to me, I just can't see how that is. And maybe that is, okay, but again, for me, 200 children is 200 children. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. One child is one child.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
yeah.
so, and the sad thing is for the diffuse intrinsic pontinglioma, which is the most aggressive form of these tumors, 99 to 100% of kids will die from this tumor. There is no cure. So there are, radiation treatments that can maybe stop it for a period of time, but these kids really have no hope.
And the treatment for some, your son, he was lucky in some ways that
Yes.
it didn't affect him to the point where, like you said, he sort of enjoyed going,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
But not all children have that response,
Right.
okay? The cost of treatment, I'm sure, is just unmanageable.
Right.
And the time that it takes from the family.
Absolutely.
And like you said, from your older son,
Mm-hmm.
who is still reeling from it
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't really even want to discuss it. He probably doesn't know how to discuss it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think he's still processing.
Yes.
So.
We all go through things in life that we don't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
We all have losses, and we think we should just accept them. And so we don't discuss them. It's not the same for my son Alex, but he has an older brother who about 4 years ago just walked out of our life. And so for Alex, it's like the death of his brother.
Right.
And Alex does not know how to express it. So it's, I can almost see where the two boys are sort of on that same level. It's like, I have to accept this, but I don't know how to accept it.
Right.
So one of the things I want people to understand is that when you're walking around with this smile on your face,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're making it through life. And you're doing it for Tyler,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Absolutely.
But people also have to understand that they have to be a little more aware and more tolerant. I hate when people come up to someone like yourself and say, well, it's for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, it's been years, so you should be okay. We don't know how you should be.
Right.
And those are the things that we want people to understand through my I'm Possible dream. I can't walk in your shoes,
Mm-hmm.
but I need to be understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find people who just don't get it?
I think that in that first year, that was when I really found a lot of frustration with people that thought that I should be grieving in a certain way, or handling, life or the kids, or, my downtime or whatever it was, in a different way. And for me, it was very challenging, because even what grief is so individual, and so what I was going through was not what my husband was going through, was not what my family was going through, and so on. And it's different for every single family. And so I so appreciated those people that if I didn't want to talk to anybody for a month, I had some people that just said, well, I'm here when you want to talk, and let it be. And I think it's just so important to, really try to hear or understand. You're not going to understand exactly what we're going through. And I don't ever wish that on anybody. I don't want you to have to live in those shoes. But, try to find what works for somebody that is in those shoes. Some people might really want to have that support all the time. Some people might want to be left alone and kind of turn into a hermit for a little bit. Some people might find meals helpful. Some people might find just being a presence is helpful. So for me, it was just, don't tell me how I should be processing this, and don't tell me what the books say that I should be doing, and just accept it for what it is. And that's how you will be the biggest support for me. Now, years out, I feel like people are, I feel like I'm healed. I'm at a peaceful spot. I can think about Ty and I can smile because I'm at peace with it. I know he's where he needs to be. And I don't find that's such an issue anymore. But, what happened did change our lives. And, it's like a ripple in water, and our lives are still rippling. And there's still pieces that we're trying to pick up and kind of put back together. And people do sometimes not get that, and they kind of lose patience in that process. And so, yeah, I think that is one of the biggest issues. So.
Well, we all have ripples in our life, and so we all have to recognize that things are constantly changing.
Right.
So yours may be a little bit more than somebody else's, but again, we don't know what other people are going through.
Right.
How's your husband doing?
He's doing well. So like I said, we totally different as far as grieving. And so he, more like my son, has always been kind of the I don't want to acknowledge it type of person. And so now, he's to a point where we can talk about Ty, and he does not mind talking to others about Ty. But he still has a hard time talking in depth to me about Ty. And there are pictures and videos that I will watch and I will look at and I will show the kids. And yes, sometimes it's painful and sometimes it really hurts. But I do that because, I let myself feel those things. Whereas he will still kind of shut it off and turn away. And so he's doing well, but I just don't think he's processed it, to the point maybe that I have at this time.
So, but you both have done your homework, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay. And sometimes situations like this tear a family apart, but you all have stayed together. You're working it through
Absolutely.
As you need to work it through. And that is really, really so important.
Yes.
So when is this run? Tell us the details.
So this run is on August 30th. You can register for it on fox8.com. It's the Fox 8 Foxtrot. Now, we have done runs in the past for the Prayers for Maria Foundation, and Ty's team has been very, very large. And so that's really my goal for this, is to have kind of a reunification of Ty's team. And, this will be the 7th year that Ty has been gone. And Ty was 7 when he passed away. And so I feel like this is a perfect year for everybody to again come together and remember Ty and honor Ty and do this kind of for Ty and for all the kids that battle this cancer. So again, it's Fox 8 Foxtrot. You can register on their website. I was not able to form a team, and again, I'm not technologically savvy, so maybe I missed that part when I was signing up. But I feel like if you sign up and you walk with those that are walking, or you run with me, which please, I hope somebody runs with us, because right now it's just my husband and I, and hopefully Nate. We're going to make t-shirts. So we're going to have t-shirts available, and that will be a visual cue for people that we are all running for the same goal and the same purpose. And I have a fundraising website, and I couldn't tell you the exact.
Well, if you send that to me,
Yes.
I will put it on the blog,
Okay.
which is My I'm Possible Dream, AH, at WordPress. We'll get it out on social media, and we'll make sure that everybody knows about it.
That's
so
awesome.
We'll just keep pushing that out there. I want to thank you for sharing this. After the run, let's have you come back and tell us all about it.
Okay.
If Nate runs, I'm going to be so ecstatic.
I'm going to be so happy.
And if he doesn't, it's okay.
Right.
We each got to do what we got to do.
Right.
I can't make my almost 25-year-old do certain things.
Right,
So
right.
they all sort of march to the beat of their own drum.
Absolutely.
your little ones are too young to run.
Correct. Yeah, actually, my 8-year-old Bella, she wanted to, but I'm not sure. My mom said, "Oh, I heard that running that distance isn't very healthy for them," and so I thought maybe you could just walk. I don't want to, overexert her. But I think in years to come, she would definitely do it. So
that is exciting. And how old is the little one?
Sammy is 6.
6. So you've got future runners.
Yes.
And that is wonderful.
And we're not a running family, so I hate running. This was kind of a goal I set for myself this year. This will be my first 5K, and I'm doing this because I wanted to do something special in memory of Ty for his 7 years.
So have you been preparing for it?
Yes, I have been. I'm using an app, like a Couch to 5K app. So I'm running every day and kind of working up my what's that word? Endurance.
Okay.
So, yes.
That is terrific. After I broke my femur and I was going through physical therapy, which I still am, I was teasing my son and I said, I'm getting ready to run a 5K. And he goes, I don't think so, Mom. And I said, well, but I could prepare. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
Right,
so,
right.
But we wish you a lot of luck.
Thank
you. Everybody get out there for that run, and it's Fox 8, and we have got some wonderful friends at Fox 8. So if Susan Stratford's listening to this, Susan, we love you, and I bet you'll be running. So have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.